Hey, I am back. It has been a while. I have spent the last 2 to 3 months cranking out video spec projects, and I'm sure you've noticed it on my channel where I'm just uploading disconnected videos that just don't make sense and they're kind of all over the place. But that is fine because I am using those projects to experiment with lighting, new camera gear, ideas, just anything in general that will keep my skills sharp and give me some sort of practice in different areas of, say, video making for client work or just creative like filmmaking in general. And so during this time and even before then, I was trying to land a small client just to prove that I could make a nice video for somebody, like a semi-documentary type of video, something that's both like advertisement but also telling a story. And luckily I was able to land my first client. I know, thank you. Thank you, I was pretty happy about it too. So I thought for today's video, it'd be kind of fun to go back, review like my previous iterations and sort of critique it or just kind of see the process of how I went from, these spec projects into a paid client video. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. At one of the VideoPal meetups hosted by Story King Studios, Josh and Mike, great people here in Bakersfield, I was telling them about the struggles of me finding a client to say yes. This guy named Richie, great guy, he mentioned the fact that sometimes you have to put your own money into these spec projects, find places, throw some money down, and then just kind of record it yourself. Just don't even ask them, just go out of your way to do it and then show them the product. And I thought that's good. That is actually a really good idea. And I thought to myself, yeah, like how am I ever going to prove to these clients, these people, these potential clients that I can do the work without any kind of proof, any kind of video work that shows my quality of work? And so when he mentioned going out of your way to spend your own money to make these videos, to show them and then sort of like hook them, I thought about, what businesses do I constantly support? And then in my head, I thought, oh, the farmer's market. I go to the farmer's market and I pick up these like really, really good sourdough loaves from El Molino Bakery. And I thought, oh, hey, this is a good example. I've been putting my money into this. Why don't I go out like I usually do, get a loaf and shoot a video for it, shoot some photos, shoot something. And so I went out of my way, got a bread, and I just started recording something. And at the time, I didn't really know how to sort of present this product or the bread, but I knew that I wanted to showcase it alongside home-cooked meals because it's a home-cooked bread. So why not pair it with something home-cooked as well? So, and for this particular bread, when it's not breakfast, I do like to pair it with like a nice, like tomato-y, like noodle soup. And so I thought, okay, hey, why don't I make a noodle soup and then pair it with this bread, and then that'll be sort of like the showcase. Again, it was one of those things where it's like, how do you pair or how do you showcase bread on its own? Like you have to make it enticing, appetizing. Not that it's not already looking appetizing, but I thought, I need to be creative with how I present the bread to show you it's more than just bread. And those are kind of like the ideas that I went with when I made this video. And unfortunately, this first draft was just completely bad, but it was a step in the right direction. So already the opening shot of this video was not the greatest. It was very uninspired, just a head-on shot with zero lighting. And this will be a recurring theme of my video. But yeah, no lighting, just plain shot. It didn't look that interesting in my opinion, but it was a starting point. And then here, so I wanted to show off like the texture of the bread, the softness, and sort of like the crunchiness of the bread as you're cutting into it. And I was playing with like slow motion, but in execution, this looked completely terrible. First of all, the shot was out of focus. I mean, you can barely see the bread in focus. Unfortunately, you can see crumbs and like stains. Just did not look appetizing. It looked really bad. Again, it was one of those shots where it's like, it looked uninspired to me. There was no lighting that really accentuated the bread other than like the natural sunlight from the window. Shot 2, also just not interesting at all. And I was just not happy with it already. I also wanted to showcase it being like toasted and again, focus on like the detail and like what's sort of in the bread. But the shot felt still like sort of uninspired to me. Just shot after shot, it just looks so bad. And like I mentioned before, I like to pair it with like a soup when I'm not eating breakfast with it. And I wanted to make the soup look really good, and it just looks so sad. It's colorless, lifeless. Um, you can, I don't know if you can see, but like it's not even like a soupy type. I think I had set it for so long that it just absorbed all the liquid, all the juice, the broth, and it just got kind of chunky. And by the time I showed it all off in the end, it just looks sad. I wanted to do a cheese pull because I thought it would look interesting. And then it just pops to the logo because their logo is naturally black. And then I just figured, oh, I'll pop it to the black logo, and then I think I do a white fade out, and that was it. I spent maybe about half an hour editing this, and maybe about an hour to filming it. And when I played it back, I was so distraught. I was bummed out. I was like, oh, what is this? Like, this is crap. This is so bad. And at the end of the day, it was the lack of lighting, the lack of planning, the lack of white balancing, all that stuff. I just went in with a camera and tried to make it work, and it just looked bad. So I went back to the drawing board. I knew that I wanted to pair the soup with the bread, but I figured I needed to tie it with a story, some type of story to make it personal to me and maybe relatable to like the viewer. So just showing the bread alone, getting cooked and like paired with a bread and paired with the soup wasn't going to work. So I thought, okay, now I got to write something. And again, because I don't have any actors, I don't have any voice actors, it's me, myself, and I have to do, you know, the recording, the editing, the acting, and the voice acting. I figured let's write like a little monologue, a little script for it that ties the two together and why it's important to get this bread. And so the subject here was cooking something with love, cooking something out of scratch, because that's always a lot better than, you know, reheating something or if I don't know, does that make sense? And the farmer's market is sort of like for the people, by the people type of thing. And so this is where I wanted to tie the two together is I only pair my home cooked meals with this home cooked bread made with love. And so I ended up making a second spec project where I corrected the issue where I had no lighting, my shots looked bland, and the color grading wasn't so sad and depressing. So I made another one, and let's check it out.
It starts with simple things.
So already off the bat, I mean, that looks great. The reds pop, there's a warmth to the image, and then I did backlighting because I kept reading or watching videos about how backlit stuff looks more filmic, more cinematic. It just gives it a different look. And instantly I noticed how nice it was. Although I will say it's probably my lack of knowledge, but I still see a little bit of noise. I couldn't get rid of the noise. There's a lot of noise everywhere, even in like the dark areas. And I don't know if I shot this with the Blackmagic. I want to say I shot this with the Sony FX30. And so that's still like an issue with me is I don't know how to handle noise in like these dark areas. You know, you could just see noise everywhere. My way around covering that up was adding a little bit of film grain. Just because the film grain feels nostalgic, etc. So it kind of worked with like the topic of the video. But either way, those were just kind of like little things that I still didn't like. But I was just really happy that I made those corrections on the second run, basically.
Things. A few ingredients, a little patience, and a lot of heart. That's all it takes to turn.
See, like, look at that. That looks way more appetizing. It's like these like punchy reds, those punchy greens. Oh, just, I love it. And the close-ups. That was something obviously I was trying to do with the first video is getting close, making the viewer feel like they're up and close, like front row seats, you know, in the cooking itself, and just having these greens and reds pop sort of make you hungry for this kind of food.
Something ordinary into something that feels like home. There's something about slowing
This
down.
shot was like, all right. I feel like I could have done better. Again, I just wanted to do focus on close-ups and like the vegetables, like the raw ingredients as it's getting mixed. My best guess, and with my limited space, I thought, let's just get close and then shoot it in slow-mo. I did think about doing like an overhead shot of me pouring everything in to the blender, but I was kind of running low on time and I settled with this shot. But if you could think of like a better way to have shown this or have shot this, let me know. I'm open to suggestions.
About chopping, stirring, tasting, and watching simple ingredients come together to become something more. When I made this soup, a simple comfort from my childhood.
This time I actually showed the process of making that soup, because before it just kind of popped into place and you didn't really know where it was coming from. Granted, I didn't show the bread being made from scratch because obviously I don't have access to that. At the time I didn't have access to that, but the idea of like home cooked, cooking from scratch was why I finally decided to show the process of the soup being made and not the bread.
I wanted it to feel like those moments again. Warm, familiar, made with care. Something crafted with intention by someone who loves what they do.
This shot, again, I did not know how to present the packaging or like the bread itself. I mean, obviously I show the bread afterwards, but this was a shot where it's like, how do you frame the packaging of the product? Or like, you know what I mean? Like suggestions, I'll take suggestions, but I did not know how to do this. I was not happy with the fact that it was out of focus, which I guess is fine. I mean, so was the, whoops, so was the logo. It was totally out of focus. But I will say that one thing that was kind of cool and kind of neat that I saw like a parallel was the idea of cooking with love, which either it was like subconsciously in my brain because maybe I'd seen the packaging. I don't know. I think it was coincidence, but at the bottom corner says made with love. And so when I saw that, I was like, oh, this is perfect. Like this is paralleling. This parallel, is that a word? Paralleling? Anyways, the parallel was like perfect. And I thought, oh, this is great. And I was happy with it. I just thought it was kind of neat.
So I paired it with El Molino bread, baked in the same way I cook. Slowly, thoughtfully.
Here is where I did break the rule of like backlighting a subject. I think I have a previous shot of me backlighting this bread and it looked terrible. I think it was like full of shadows. And because I wanted to showcase the bread, I ended up flipping the light to be more direct on the bread. And that's when you can see the textures, the colors. And this bread from this video looks way more appetizing than the one from the first version that I shot. So I was just really happy that I was able to capture the bread in its true form, basically.
With heart in every step. Because home isn't just
And then bam, finally, see that? That's what the soup's supposed to look like. Freshly made. Just so nice. This looks appetizing. This looks like a beautiful snack or a dinner, breakfast, you know, whatever. This is what I was trying to get with out of the first one. And the soup looks punchy. It's like nice and red, tomatoey. The bread looks good, nice and toasted. I added the little lemons on the side for a little bit of like aesthetic, and it looks great. You know, what doesn't look great, unfortunately, is these like weird stains on the table. These little chunks of cheese or bread. I don't know what this was up here. That was like the only thing I didn't like about it. I've since then gotten rid of like that covering on the table, but if I had the wood showing under it, this would have been like 10 times better. But it is what it is.
It's in the meals we make, in the time we take, and in the love.
And then this time, I decided to invert the logo so that it's white. I felt like the black wouldn't work on the video just like the last version did. And so I ended up inverting it. And I think I faded to black, or I kept it on that. Okay, so the whole thing faded to black. And so at that point, I was excited to share this video. I thought, okay, this might be worth sharing. The message is good. The script is good. The shots look way better than the first one. And so what I ended up doing is just uploading it to my Instagram and tagging the business. And I got really good feedback. I mean, people loved it. She reached out. She said she really, really loved it. She loved how it looked. And that is basically like what she had in mind for the video she wanted to do, obviously, but with her talking. And I thought, that's perfect. I need her voice because I'm not supposed to be the one talking in this video. She's supposed to be talking, or someone else basically. And so I think this is the video that kind of got the ball rolling. And at that point we sort of like bounced ideas back and forth and settled on a date. And finally shoot day arrived, and I couldn't be any more nervous. I could not be more nervous because finally somebody said yes. And although like I'm confident with the work that I can do, somebody said yes. And it was one of those things where it's like, okay, now you can't mess up. You got to show them that, you know, you can talk the talk, walk the walk kind of thing. I was nervous. I was like nervous that I was taking too long to set up the camera and the microphones, and I was like not in the zone. It wasn't until I got the camera set up and like on my shoulder and like ready to roll that I sort of entered my flow state, and I was like in the zone, and so was she. So that was cool that when it came time to the shoot, it all kind of like went well. But let's go see what that video looked like.
Hi, my name is Anastasia and welcome to El Molino, my bakery that I've created a year ago. I started my sourdough journey back in 2017. The episode of Chef's Table, I saw Nancy Silverton talking about her sourdough bread. I decided like, sourdough, like I'm gonna give it a try, and I had a lot of time on my hands and I decided to raise my own starter. I had to get up at night to feed it.
This one was obviously a little bit different. It was not the process of pairing it with a food, but making it from scratch. And so this still ties into the fact that you're making something from scratch and you're making it with love, and having her enthusiasm in the video is what I wanted to capture. But I wanted to like show the viewer that this truly is made with love, and watching her get really excited and talk about like the process, or like the bread itself, was like exactly what I wanted to capture for the video. Another little thing that I hated in some of these shots, which you might not notice, obviously professionals would probably notice, but like down here, there's like little weird effects or like artifacts of me trying to lighten up the skin or like lighten up the shot, because for some reason, a lot of these shots came out really dark, and I tried my best to correct it, and I'll go over it in like the post-processing portion. But there's like little things like that throughout the video that I tried to hide. But because it was going to be on a tiny little screen, I figured no one's really going to notice. But those are things that kind of still bug me today.
Because it has to be on a strict schedule when you're racing it. And yeah, I baked my first loaf of sourdough bread. Made
The
a couple
close-ups.
baguettes and we ate them. And I was
stuff.
hooked. Just the feeling of mixing the dough, mixing the ingredients, like folding, filling the dough, like how it's fluffy. And
I will say it was really hard because this shoot took maybe about 2 hours to do. Like from beginning to end, she literally showed me like the process of her like making it, prepping it, baking it. And it was so hard to like condense that 2 hours into like a 4-minute video. And it was tough. It was tough to pull out the best shots that I thought represented or showed the process of this bread making. But I feel like I did a good job selecting the clips.
And seeing it come to life in the oven when it expands, that's it. Like the crust, the look, the smell, that feeling that you feel when you're cutting into the fresh loaf of bread. Oh my god.
See, that's what I wanted to capture, like the joy, the happiness, like the excitement, to really show that this isn't just a person doing this as like a side hustle and they're just trying to make money out of it. Obviously, like everybody wants to make money from their business, but this person truly seems excited for their business, their work, etc. And that's sort of like the friendly face and like attitude that you want to see when you're seeing these kind of videos, is that you want to see this person as a human who loves to do what they do and excited to serve the community or, whoever.
Here, baking is not only a craft, it's something real, something honest, and something simple that I can
Bread cut.
share with the community.
I had to do the bread cut, remember? Nice close up. Boom. You see, you got to show the texture, how soft it was, how crunchy it is.
Bread
It all
doesn't need to be
kind of
complicated.
accumulated together from all like the drafts.
And I know that sourdough process, when you first meet it, it's lots of steps and you get like overwhelmed. But once you pull hard, it's just
Again,
you
showing
enjoy every
the excitement, the
single minute
process.
of it.
Although that might not always be the case, but still.
It's the slow process of sourdough making that makes it special. So yeah, welcome to El Molino.
And then this time I kept the logo black and faded to white. So there was a lot of like mixing and matching from like all the different like spec videos, like the drafts, that I kind of picked and choose everything and grabbed elements that I liked from each. Although I don't know if I grabbed anything that I liked from the first one other than like maybe the structure. But yeah, that was it. And that was the paid gig final product. And I think I could still do maybe like 2 more videos out of that, but I need to get B-roll or maybe pictures from the anecdotes that she tells. I will say one of the things that I did hate that I didn't do was, number one, I didn't light up the scenes. I didn't use any lights. And you would think that that's something that I would learn from like the first iteration of the video where I didn't use any lighting, and then the second where I used lighting. I thought it was bright enough in there to shoot and, you know, correct it in post. That day, out of all the days, day of the shoot was overcast. No sun, no nothing. But every other day besides that was sunny, beautiful, nice. And there's times where she posts on her story that bread and like the sun coming through the window, through the blinds, and it looks so nice. And that's sort of the shots that I wanted to grab. But that day decided to be overcast and it was a bummer. I thought I could work with the overcast. I figured there's going to be no sun, so there's not going to be a change in light. And the kitchen is already well lit enough, so there's like no need to light in here. And boy, was I wrong. It actually ended up making the color grade process a lot more harder to do in post. It took a lot longer because there was a shift in like the lighting, the white balance. There was like even a shift in like tint, where some shots looked a lot more blue and other shots looked a lot more like green. I don't know. It was hard to explain, but maybe I could show you in a little bit. So the lack of me using lighting really hurt me, and it hurt the post editing process, unfortunately. But I was able to make it work, because what you see now, if you think it looks not the best, because I think this looks great for what I could work with. I was scared that it was going to be a dud and that I had messed it up, but I pulled through. I pulled through. Another mistake that I made is I didn't mic her up. I had brought some mics, and I think I was so busy trying to not waste time and get straight to shooting that I just didn't set her up with a microphone. I mean, I didn't even get to do any BTS when I did this. As running as a one-man band, I was supposed to do BTS and I didn't do it because I got nervous that I was taking too long, that I was like not fast enough, that that I was just not going to do this right. So I didn't mic her up and I didn't do BTS, but the miking would have been perfect as like additional dialogue to put at the back of this video. Like there was questions that I was asking her where she would tie it in with like fun anecdotes or just like little lessons that she learned, like things like that, where I think would have been nice to have, because although she basically like told me again at the end when I asked her my questions, because she was like in the hot seat, she was in the chair with the microphone pointed at her and like 2 cameras. She was no longer in her bread making state, and so like she had exited that flow state, and then she got kind of nervous. But if I would have had the mic on her right then and there during the process, that would have sort of eliminated that and gotten slightly different answers. Not that the answers were bad in the end, because obviously she's like really good with speaking on camera and like speaking in general, but just capturing like those little anecdotes that she told me, or like those little tidbits, would have been nice during the bread making process. Okay, so let's quickly jump down to the node structures. I have basically 2 groups here. It's the black magic, and also, I don't know if I've mentioned it, but for some of the B shots for the interview portion, I did use the R50V, which It's right here. And this is the camera that I have been using for the last 2 to 3 months for those spec projects. So although this was not used as like an A camera for that project, I have been using it for just about every video the last 2 months because I want to get to know it, get to learn it, and become familiar with it and Canon systems, because I haven't used Canon in a while since the EOS R and the M6 Mark II, which will be going away soon, probably. So 2 groups, the Blackmagic group and the R50 group. Those are 2 node groups. I did shoot this in B-RAW, and the structure is the same, but it's a little bit wonky because maybe I could show you what it looked like. This was at the timeline level, so let's just show you what it looked like out of the box. So all said and done, all my Blackmagic clips look like this. That terrified me. That I was like thinking, there's no way I'm gonna make this work. This has like a weird bluish tint. And I was like tripping out. I was like, oh no, I messed up so bad. And so although my note structure looks kind of crazy, it was me attempting to fix all the clips everywhere all at once, because here's an example of a clip. See, it just, they're not bad, but they look like they were lacking some color, and I was scared that they were not going to look very good at all. Granted, these are, for example, like look at these clips of the bread. Look how dark that looked. Like that's what I was working with. A lot of these clips look like that, or worse, they look darker or just super blue, super, here's an example of another one. Very ugly looking shot. I was like, oh no. And it looked really good in like the LCD when I was recording it on the Blackmagic. So I was like, okay, perfect. This is gonna look great. And this is what I came to when it came to importing my footage. If you see my timeline nodes, they look a little bit off. Let's just see what it looks like here. I think I slapped a LUT and made it darker, but the colors look punchier, so that was good. I brined up the colors because it still looked kind of too gray and sad. So that looked better, but the image still looked dark. I think I added like a base LUT or something that kind of messed with like the S-curve a little bit. It looked better, but it still looked bluish. It looked cool. And again, I made sure to white balance before my shooting began, but I only color balance once, not throughout every shot. Why? Because I thought, hey, she's got all these lights on in the kitchen. The lighting's gonna be the same. It's never gonna change. But then I didn't think that the light from the outside was gonna change the light like on the inside, if that makes sense. It was like changing throughout the day. And so I think that's probably what did it, or maybe changing the angles is what did it. But this is like the shot that I was working with, even with all the attempts I was making with trying to correct the clip. And I just could not get it to look good, and I was dreading it. You know, I tried adding more stuff, was not working, so I turned it off. We'll bring these in later. And so obviously you could tell that I did a lot. It was tough. It was tough, but I kept messing with the temperature. I wanted to make it warm, so I kept bringing warmth into it, but she still looked really, really dark. And so I messed with the exposures. Boom, I was able to like get those shots to look brighter. So I was like, okay, that's good. I had a vignette to focus it on her. Her skin still looked a little bit too red or like too dark. And so I wanted to lighten that up a little bit, because that's not what her skin looks like. And she borderline looked like sunburnt in these clips. And so I brought up her skin tone a little bit and then lightened up her body. And so this is what I was able to end up with in the end. This was as good as it was gonna get. And I could show you why. So let's go ahead and make a new timeline. So this is what the first draft of the video looked like. It didn't look bad, right? Not too bad, but it feels like dull, not bright enough. And her skin looks yellow. Let's turn off the audio really quick. In draft 2 is when I noticed like, holy crap, like I need to fix her skin, because if you turn it off now, her skin here looks a little bit closer to what her skin really looks like. And then that's when I realized how yellowish or how bluish these shots looked. And so I was like, oh no, like I gotta fix this. And I think you can even see it. Oh, I did rearrange some of the shots. Okay, so here, sort of like a yellowish, bluish tint. Here, it looked warmer, it looked nicer, but her skin looked so red. She looked like she got sunburnt. By the time the third iteration came, I had fixed her skin. She no longer looked sunburnt, but her skin still did look a little bit darker, unfortunately. So you see, afterwards, this was before. Sunburnt, a little bit more normal. And I fought and I fought and I fought. It's kind of hard to tell there. I think here's where you'll be able to notice it a lot better. See? I pulled back on the yellows, on the reds, and her skin looked less red. So I was pretty happy about that. And I think with the fourth iteration, which I think was the final one, I used masks to target her to lighten her up more because she still felt too dark. Although her skin color was normalized, her body, her skin in general just looked too dark. There wasn't really any form of separation, and I blame myself for not using lights. I could have brought her closer to the camera, lit her up from all kinds of directions, used a bounce or something, and that would have fixed the problem from the get-go, and I wouldn't have to be doing all this, in post, because I couldn't go and reshoot this. I tried my best with what I could, and I used masks this time around. And it's not much, but she definitely like stands out from the background now. So I did what I could. And again, it didn't help that the walls were yellow, the lights were yellow, but those are unfortunately just lessons that you learn as you do this live. Yeah, I see the bread, it looked fine, but I just added like a little mask and I just kind of brightened it up a little bit to make it pop. So it made things pop more. I think here as well. She looked darker here, and then here I lightened her up a little bit. And this was shot with the R50V, which the colors looked a little bit different to the Blackmagic 6K. I don't know what or how. I tried my best to match them. I didn't know how, but I tried my best. But I just realized that like the R50V looks brighter and a little bit softer actually than the 6K, because I mean it's kind of like night and day from this to this. Her skin looks brighter, the shadows look like lighter. I don't know, it's weird, but I'll figure it out. This was just one of those things where I did what people say you're not supposed to do, and that's experiment the day of filming. That day is not meant for experimenting. That day you should know what you're gonna do, what you're gonna use, and how to use the things that you're gonna use. So that was like another pain point for me, is I brought gear that I was not super familiar with, because I think this was before I started doing all the R50V like spec projects, so I was not too familiar with it yet. And I don't think I had even shot any kind of log footage out of this. This was like the first big boy shoot that I did with it. So I took a chance. It worked, but I need to remember not to do that again. Yeah, I fixed areas where she looked dark, or where just areas looked too dark, and I just brightened it up. Here as well, this used to be a lot darker, and I brightened it up. Oh, you can see right here. This is when I was trying to target her skin tones. It grabbed some of these little pieces here, and like the shadows and like the midtones, and I was able to refine the shadow a little bit, or the masks a little bit, and kind of remove those weird artifacts. But yeah, that was it. Another big pain point was she sat by the big oven that was still running or powering off, I can't remember. And when I was recording the audio, you could hear the machine whirring in the back. It was just like, woo. So that was another fun thing to try to fix. Luckily, DaVinci has a great noise or like voice canceling, voice isolation functionality that allowed me to do that. So it was as simple as just turning it on. and then boom. Otherwise, I probably would have had to have gone and processed the audio using like RX probably. RX, I think I have RX-7, but that would have been like another thing as well to go through. But DaVinci already does a great job at isolating voice. So that was one less headache for me. But yeah, that really boils everything down. Everything was just corrections to skin, white balance, etc. And then the timeline was just sharpness, glow, and I believe halation is what I added towards the end, and that gave her and the shot like a nice warm, almost like nostalgic look to it that I overall was pretty happy with. Anyways, that was my thought process. That was my sort of planning to generate or create an idea to make a video to pitch to someone for them to say yes, and I got them to say yes. So hopefully it was educational to you, or hopefully it was entertaining to you. If you saw anything that I did wrong or have any like suggestions or improvements, I am all ears. I'm always open to criticism or suggestions. And then keep an eye out soon, as I will be making a video on the R50V, which I've been using for the last 2 to 3 months back to back. I feel like there's not really much information on the R50V, and it's obviously not geared towards like filmmakers, but I think this is a really nice camera for video creation that I feel like not many content creators are talking about. And those few that are mostly just paid by Canon. But it doesn't seem like people are going out of their way to buy that camera. And it's a really affordable camera with really good specs, I think. So keep an eye out for that video. It'll be coming out soon. So with that being said, thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you again on the next one.